आगे बढ़ते हुए दोस्तों अभी महत्वपूर्ण सब्जेक्ट जो है प्रोसीजर टू बी फॉलोड बाय रीडेवलपमेंट ऑफ कोऑपरेटिव हाउसिंग सोसाइटी। इस दौर में कोरोना के बाद काफी सारा उठापटक हुआ और इसमें आज रीडेवलपमेंट का जो विषय है दोस्तों, यही बड़ी अच्छी गति से चलने की शुरुआत हो गई है। एक अच्छा संकेत है ये। तो रीडेवलपमेंट का जो प्रक्रिया है वो क्या है, उससे रिलेटेड सवाल हम चर्च में जो है वो लेंगे हमारे कीनोट स्पीकर एडवोकेट पूर्वी सोलंकी से। प्लीज वेलकम पूर्वी सोलंकी, आपका स्वागत है।
Thank you so much, sir, for the warm welcome on the webinar. Also, all the invitees who have joined this webinar, thank you so much for sparing time and attending it. The topic which I have taken for discussion today is procedure to be followed by every cooperative housing society for the purpose of redevelopment. Now, there are a lot among society members the right approach when they are undertaking redevelopment of their society. In this view, I would very firstly define what does redevelopment mean. Redevelopment is the demolition of existing and old buildings and construction of the new building in accordance with the development control regulation. Now, the way I have summarized the definition in 2 lines, it is not that easy. It is a massive undertaking which requires highly proactive and cautious approach. Now, stating this, we see that across the state of Maharashtra, there are several cooperative housing societies which are undertaking redevelopment. In this view, for the very first time, the Maharashtra government came up with a circular dated 3rd June 2009, wherein step-by-step procedure was stated which every housing society should follow if they want to undertake redevelopment procedure. Now, when the 2009 notification or the circular came up, for a span of 10 years, there were several complaints which were received from housing societies, housing federations, and individuals. The complaints were with respect to the members were not taken into confidence by the managing committee. There was lack of transparency, there was mismanagement in the managing committee, and several other aspects which were related to redevelopment. It was on this when the state government contemplated the issue and thought it imperative that revised guidelines should be introduced so as to ensure acceleration of redevelopment in the state and also to tackle the several issues and complaints which are being raised up by the housing societies, federations, and the individuals. So the state of Maharashtra, the government, in exercise of powers which is conferred upon them under Section 79A of Maharashtra Cooperative Society Act 1960, they came up with revised guidelines dated 4th July 2019. This notification is applicable to all kinds of development, be it development done by a developer under a development agreement, cluster development of housing federations, or you can say self-development, and many more. Now, the notification is very clear on point that if building of a cooperative housing society is declared as ruinous or dilapidated or dangerous, which poses danger for habitation of the residents, or if it is dangerous for any passerby or any structure in the neighborhood, then such society and the building is eligible for redevelopment. And a resolution to that effect can be passed in the general body meeting. Now, having stated this, every housing society. Now, before I commence with before I start with the procedure to be followed, I would give a disclaimer over here that every housing society, whenever they are opting for redevelopment, they have to strictly adhere to the provisions of the Maharashtra Cooperative Society Act 1960, the rules made thereunder, that is the Maharashtra Cooperative Society Rules of 1961, and the bylaws. Now, it happens that housing society members are not that expert. They are layman. They don't have that kind of expertise. For this purpose, of course, you can take help of people who are the professionals who are associated with legal field or with other fields wherein the help or assistance is required. Now, having stated this, I would begin with how a cooperative housing society should proceed. The very first thing is about the title of the land. Now, this is of utmost importance that we need to first ascertain where does a society at the present date stand when it comes to title or right of the society on the land, because there is a land on which the structure of the society is standing. Now, does that land, does a society have absolute title to that particular land? That has to be determined. So for that, we take into consideration several documents in possession of the society. Do they have a conveyance deed in place? Do they have a lease deed, or do they have a administration deed? If the conveyance of the society is not done, it is highly recommended that the society should first proceed with deemed conveyance. Once deemed conveyance is done, they acquire absolute and conclusive, I repeat it again, there has to be absolute right of the society upon the land on which the structure is standing. And the same should reflect in the land records, the PR cards, and rest of the documents. Only then you should proceed for redevelopment. So the title of the land, very first point. Second is about the structural audit. Now, before a society opts for redevelopment, it is very important that structural audit of the building is done. This has been made mandatory by the government. Buildings which are about 30 years of age, the structural audit should be conducted once in every 5 years. Building whose age is between 15 to 30 years, the structural audit should be done in every 3 years. So this is how structural audit should be done. Now, structural audit is basically examination of the overall health of the building to ensure that it is safe, it is risk-free, it can be habituated by the residents. So this is the main thing. Now, the purpose why structural audit is conducted is to examine the parts and structures of the parts and the sections of the building, and to determine, does it require immediate repair, does it require restoration, or does it require replacement. Now, we see that typically buildings in the state of Maharashtra or elsewhere, they are constructed to last for a duration of 80 to 90 years. And during the passage of time, we see that the structural sanctity of that building is compromised due to several factors which are beyond human control. We can say due to the bad weather condition, due to heavy rainfall, wear and tear, and so on. In such situation, it is highly recommended that structural audit of the building should be conducted so as to avoid any such calamitous eventualities. Having stated this, another question that arises in the mind is, how should we do the structural audit? Now, for this purpose, a cooperative housing society can seek the service and hire any project consultant or any agency by inviting tenders from there. Now, these people are expertised in the field of civil construction. Now, based on the tenders received, you can shortlist the one you want to proceed with and who will prepare an audit report for you. Now, this audit report, which is prepared by the consultant, it will actually show you whether the society should go for repairs, whether it should go for restoration. Restoration is when if there is any major defect in any section or part of the building, then that should be brought into the original place by restoring it, by repairing it, or does it require redevelopment? Now, based on the structural audit report, the society has to take a call. If the structural audit report states that the building is in a highly dilapidated condition, it is very dangerous for people staying there, then it is recommended that the society is eligible to undertake redevelopment of the building. Having stated this, we are very clear on 2 points right now: the title of the land and the structural audit. So once the audit report gives you a clear picture that yes, now we have to proceed with the redevelopment, now comes into picture the notification of 4th July 2019, which gives a step-by-step procedure which has to be followed by the society committee and its members. Now, before I proceed with this, I would also like to state that the notification which has been issued, it is more of a guideline to the members, to guide them, to assist them, to enable them to proceed in a very smooth way. Step-by-step procedure has been listed down. Very first thing, not less than 1/5 member of the total strength of the housing society. I repeat, not less than 1/5 member of the total strength of the housing society shall make an application to the managing committee that they wish the society to convene a special general body meeting to take the redevelopment issue, the redevelopment matter for discussion in the special general body meeting. When I say 1/5 of the total strength, I would give an illustrative example that if your society comprises 100 members, 1/5 would be 25 members. So not 25 members and more. They have to make an application jointly to the managing committee of the society. Now, once such an application is received, the managing committee is bound to acknowledge the copy, and within 2 months, they have to convene the special general body meeting. Now, also, I would like to state that whenever a date is fixed for the special general body meeting, 14 days prior to that, a notice has to be served on every member of the housing society, intimating them that a special general body meeting for the said purpose is to be conducted. People who are not available in the society premises, who are abroad, intimation can be given through electronic mode of communication or through email or any way. Moving a step further, once it has been intimated, also you have to affix the notice on the society notice board. Now, what will be the primary agenda? First, to read and confirm the minutes of the managing committee which was previously conducted. Secondly, to take up the matter of redevelopment for preliminary discussion based on the various suggestions and requisitions which has been received from the members. And the third thing is to decide upon appointment of a project management consultant or an architect. Now we have to get this very clear that when I just started speaking, I have said that society is not that technically sound or expertise. That is why you have to, if in case you think you need to hire service of a project management consultant or an architect, as the case may be, who will assist you throughout the redevelopment process as per the rules and regulations. So having stated what should be on the agenda list, the very next thing is the date on which the special general body meeting is conducted. Over here, very important is the quorum. Not less than 2/3 of the total number of members in a housing society should be present in the meeting. That means if there is 100 members, out of that you require 67 or more members to be present in the meeting so as to get a proper quorum. If on the date of meeting you say that hardly 50 people are present, then that is not your appropriate quorum. You have to postpone the special general body meeting for 7 more days. If on the 7th day also, which has been decided that on this date, again the special general body meeting will be held, and if on that date also you don't have the quorum, again you will postpone it for 7 days. Now on that 7th day, again you don't have the quorum, it shall be deemed to be understood that the members of the housing society are not interested for undertaking redevelopment of the society. Okay, there cannot be any compulsion on this. And for the next 3 months, the society will be spared from taking the redevelopment matter as an agenda in any of the upcoming general body meetings. So having stated this was one part of the quorum. Now, if I say on the very first day only the quorum was of 67 members, then agenda-wise you will be taking up the matters for discussion and pass the resolution to that effect. Now, the very first thing is about the preliminary discussion of redevelopment procedure. On this, you will get the suggestions of the members, which will be minuted. And on the basis of that, if 51% of the total strength of the society, if they have consented that the society should go with the redevelopment procedure, then in such a situation, society can move ahead with the redevelopment. So to give another illustrative example of this, I stated that in special general body meeting, not less than 2/3 of the members should be present. That means 67 or more members should be present. Out of that, when I say 51% consent of the total strength of the society, it means that out of the 67 people, 51 or more members should consent to the redevelopment. only then you can proceed with the redevelopment procedure of the society. So over here, the very first agenda, then you can pass a resolution to that effect. The second agenda is with respect to project management consultant or an architect. Now, when this agenda is taken up for discussion, there has to be suggestions and there has to be a detailed discussion on what is going to be the scope of work of such project management consultant or architect. On the basis of that, you have two options. I have received two queries based on this, that whether there has to be an advertisement given, whether advertisement is mandatory, or you can have an invitational quotation. So both the things can be done, okay, at the discretion of the society. If in the special general body meeting, the society has decided that there are few members who are aware about qualified and licensed architect or project management consultant, as the case may be, invitational quotations can be invited, or advertisements can be given in two newspapers, English and Marathi, Marathi being the regional language of Maharashtra. Accordingly, you can proceed with that. Now, once this is done and the special general body meeting concluded, the minutes of that special general body meeting has to be circulated to members who were present and to members who were not present for their ready reference. Now, after that, the second stage is about appointment of project management consultant or architect. So you are I would recommend managing committee that you prepare a standard draft of a letter wherein you are listing stage-wise a procedure which you want the PMC to assist you in till a developer is appointed, and accordingly you can you can send it to the project management consultants or architects who are known to you, or you can publish an advertisement, and on the date on which the quotations are received, the managing committee should conduct a meeting. The secretary should initiate conduction of a managing committee meeting, and on the basis of the quotation received, you can finalize, you can go ahead with any PMC or any architect which the society finds appropriate. Now, once this is done, you are going to issue an appointment letter to the project management consultant. Now, here I want also to add one thing which I have skipped. For transparency in the entire redevelopment process, society has to create a website in the name of the society itself. The title could be redevelopment of XYZ society, whatever is your society name. On this particular website, every information, the procedure what I am talking about under section 79A, under the notification, the 2019 notification, every single thing has to be uploaded on the website so that it is easily accessible to all the members of the cooperative housing society. And the information of this also has to be given to the Registrar of Cooperative Housing Society, Maharashtra. Now, once the moving ahead, once the project management consultant or the architect is appointed, later on, the PMC or the architect, based on the work which has been the work for which the assistant is sought, they will start the procedure. Now, what is going to be the scope of work of PMC? Very first thing, they will conduct the survey of the land and the building of the society. Second important thing is they will check what is the status of title of the society to the particular land, which I have discussed in the very beginning, the title of the land. Third thing, what is the FSI and what is the FSI and TDR available as per the development control regulations and as per the regulations of the planning authority, that is the SRA, MAHADA, BMC, okay, which changes from time to time depending on the title of the land. So this is going to be examined by them. The fourth important thing is they will prepare a feasibility report. Now, feasibility report is very important because to sum up in few points, feasibility report is going to serve as a base for the housing society to know to know what is the present position, what is the total area of the land, what is the valuation of that area, what is the FSI available. On the basis of this, society will be well prepared to, whenever a developer is appointed, what are the commercial terms they have to negotiate with the developer. In this particular thing, it's just to sum up in 2-3 points, I would state that you can negotiate with respect to the area, you can negotiate with respect to the corpus fund, the shifting allowance, and so forth. So these are the commercial terms you are going to negotiate the developer with on the basis of the feasibility report. You have a clarity on what is the value of the land, what is the economic and commercial viability of the project. So the society is having a fair idea when the feasibility report is prepared. Now, once the feasibility report is prepared by the project management consultant or architect, as the case may be, it will be submitted to the managing committee within 2 months from the date of its appointment. So within 2 months, when the appointment letter is given to the architect, they are duty bound to submit the feasibility report to the managing committee. The managing committee will within 8 days, by giving an 8-day notice, they will conduct the managing committee meeting, wherein feasibility report will be put up for discussion. PMC and architect will PMC or the architect will be called upon to explain the feasibility report to them, and also for if their society members has any suggestion with respect to that, it will be discussed mutually. Now, once the feasibility report is prepared, now the next step is about the tendering, or to float the tender. Tender document will be prepared by the project management consultant or the architect. The tender document, it comprises of the complete details of the society. It will comprise the way PMC drafts the tender document. It varies from consultants to consultants. You can have a technical bid in that, wherein if the tender document is going to be passed on or going to be collected by any developer who is interested in the project, he will fill up the details of his company, whether it is a partnership firm, LLP, or it is a proprietary concern, how many projects have they completed, what is the status of the project, and so on. Later on, there can also be a commercial bid, wherein if there are any commercial terms which the society, which the developer wants to offer, they can fill up when the sealed tenders will be received. Also, there can be amenities which the society wants, society is looking forward for in the newly constructed building. So this is about the tender document. Now, when the tender document is prepared, again, the draft copy will be placed in the managing committee meeting, and the managing committee is going to go through the entire document, if there are suggestions, if there are any changes. And once it is finalized, later on, PMC or the architect will publish an advertisement. It is a tender notice, wherein bidders will be invited to collect sealed tenders for the cost which has been decided by the architect, and to give their proposals, to give their offers. Now, when this is done, there is a date fixed that within this many days, there is a minimum period of 14 to 15 days. So within this many days, you have to collect the tender and give your offer. On the last date, when sealed tenders are received, in the upcoming 8 days, in a span of 8 days, managing committee has to conduct the meeting. They have to then list down the various the tenders which are sealed tenders received serially, and give it to the project management consultant or the architect for preparation of comparative chart. Now, what is a comparative chart? Comparative chart is basically what are the commercial offers, okay, given by the developer. Now, in this case also, I want to notify one thing. You require minimum 3 offers from 3 bids from developers to proceed with. If in case you don't have 3 bids, you can actually proceed with the number of bids you have received. But for this also, the day on which the sealed tenders are received, on that day at least you need to have 3. If you don't have 3, extend the duration for 8 more days for receiving that for receiving the bid. If again on that date you don't have 3 bids, then you can proceed with the number of bids which you have received. Now, after that, after you have received that, I stated that the PMC is going to prepare a comparative chart. Comparative chart will depict what is the area being offered by the by the bidders, by the developers who have actually bid for the project. What is the corpus they are offering? What is the rent they are offering per month with increment in consecutive years? Then you will have, are they offering you brokerage? Are 1 month brokerage has to be given? Are they offering you that? What is the bank guarantee they are giving you, or the bank, or you have the collateral cash guarantee? This is what is going to reflect in your comparative chart. In addition to that, you will have a technical bid wherein details of the developers, the projects, how much they have done, the projects they have completed will be given to you. Now, having stated this, once the comparative chart is prepared, it will be handed over to the managing committee for their reference. It is here when the managing committee has to write an application to the registrar cooperative society department stating that we have followed the due process up till here, till receiving of the bid. We request you to appoint an authorized officer who will mark his presence on the day which will be fixed for conducting the special general body meeting for appointment of the developer. Once an authorized officer is appointed by the registrar, the date when the special general body meeting is held, again, you have to see that, as earlier stated, not less than 2/3 has to be present there. You need 51% consent. Now, also, I would like to explain what is going to be the agenda on the day when the representative from registrar office is visiting the society premises. Very first thing, you will read and confirm the minutes of the committee, which was committee meeting which was conducted earlier. Second is you will be explaining the comparative chart. The secretary can, secretary, the chairman can read out to the members about how many tenders were received, present the tenders serially, and accordingly read out the comparative chart to the people. Now, on the basis of the comparative chart, the members who are present, they will, out of that, out of the 67, which is the minimum, out of that, 51 members, if there is a developer selected, 51 members has to consent to the appointment of that particular developer for redevelopment of the society. After that, I would also state that the entire proceeding which is happening in front of the authorized officer, it has to be video recorded, because this is going to get submitted at the end of the procedure. So once the developer is selected, written consent has to be obtained from that 51 members or more who are present over there, who consented to the appointment of the developer. Consent of the developer should also be taken in the presence of the authorized officer, and accordingly the special general body meeting can conclude. So over here, till appointment of developer, the procedure I have cleared. Now, the date when the developer is appointed, within 3 months from the date of his appointment, development agreement has to be executed along with the power of attorney and the indemnity bond, the different documents along with the DA. Now, coming on towards DA, DA is the heart of the entire redevelopment procedure. Therefore, it is recommended for every society that they have to be very precautious. They have to be very cautious, and the approach towards drafting and finalization of the development agreement has to be very proactive. Now, what are the points which has to be taken into consideration while drafting a development agreement? I'll summarize it quickly. So, very first thing which every housing society member shall take into consideration is the time period. Depending on the size of the project, the time period for completion of the project has to be determined. It can be 24 months with additional grace period of 6 months, or it is going to be 36 months with an additional grace period of 6 months. So very important thing is the clause with respect to the completion of the project, because we see that there are several buildings, there are several cooperative housing society which has undergone redevelopment right now, and things like 10 to 12 years the project are stuck. So this first important thing you have to take care of. Second thing is about the bank guarantee. Now, as per the provision 20% of the total redevelopment cost has to be given as the bank guarantee to the society. So if in case the developer defaults, the society has that 20% to complete what is pending, and to be on a safer side, they are not stuck up. So bank guarantee is the second important point. The third thing is with respect to the commercial terms. So at the time when the developer was appointed, what were the commercial terms agreed between them, be it with respect to the area, whether there is a 20% hike, there is a 25% hike, or there is a 30% hike, which was decided by, which is mutually decided by the society and the developer. Then comes what was the corpus fund, okay, which has been decided. Then the rent per month, what percentage of increment every year, and also the brokerage, the 1 month brokerage which you get. Next is the shifting allowance charge, and so on. Whatever the rest of the commercial terms you have agreed. So the clause has to be very specific with respect to the commercial terms. Then comes a very important point about the clause wherein when should the members of a society vacate their premises. Now you have to consider this, you have to take, you need to deliberate upon this point. It is recommended that there has to be an incorporation of point in the development agreement that the day when the developer it comes up with the IOD, that is the intimation of disapproval, on that date, the society and its members shall vacate their respective premises and hand over the entire premise, the vacated premises to the developer, so as to enable him to proceed with the redevelopment, to demolish it and to proceed further. The next thing is about sanctioned building plans. Now this has to be very specific. The building plans which were approved by the respective authorities, which were sanctioned and approved, there has to be a clause that the construction of the building is going to be strictly in accordance with that. There cannot be a shift of any single thing when it comes to building plan. Also, these were the basic points which I have told you. If the society is taking assistance of any legal counsel who is expertise in this particular field, also the society can take suggestions, and accordingly, as per the council's advice, you can clearly draft your development agreement and finalize it. Now, having stated this, I have step by step tried to throw light on the procedure, the guidelines under Section 79A by notification of 2019 of the Maharashtra government with respect to redevelopment of cooperative society. Now, having stated the procedure, I would like to discuss what are the documents which the society should keep in place whenever they are whenever they are deciding to undertake the redevelopment procedure. The very first thing is your society registration certificate. Second is your property card, or a Satwara extract, wherein the society name is appearing. It is reflecting on the property card as the owner. The next thing is about the conveyance deed, the lease deed, which is either of which is available with both of the things which are available with the society. Next, you have the development agreement at the time when it was constructed. The building was constructed, the DA of that time, IOD, then the IOD, the agreement for sale of the various flat purchasers at that time, and the registration. Also one thing I have missed out. Whenever you are executing a development agreement with the developer, you have to see that it is properly registered and duly stamped. Okay, because a non-registered document, a development agreement, it is not going to be enforceable by law. Okay, it can be taken as a reference, but for its validity, it has to be duly registered and appropriate stamp duty has to be paid on it. Now moving further with a list of documents. Now, whenever you are whenever you have appointed a developer, there are also certain details which you need to take from the developer. That is, very first thing is details about who are the directors, who are the partners of that particular firm, in what capacity do they occupy the position in the particular firm. If it is a partnership firm, you can take a copy of the partnership deed, or if it is a company, you can take a copy of the memorandum of association. You can take a copy of the incorporation certificate of the company or the registration, partnership registration certificate from them. You can also take a copy of income tax return, which is filed by them for the last 3 years. And also, if you can get an access to the balance sheet or the profit and loss, this is only for your reference of the society that yes, they are financially and technically sound and can accelerate the process of the redevelopment of the particular society. So yeah, these are the documents which has to be kept in place. If I have missed out on the few, I apologize for this. But yeah, these are the basic documents which has to the society should keep with them whenever they want to proceed with the redevelopment of the society. Now, having stated this, I would like to conclude on a note that if a society is undertaking the project of redevelopment and if the step-by-step procedure is followed and successfully completed within the period as stipulated in the development agreement, then once the possession of the new flats are handed over to them, the society shall ensure that within a period of 4 months, they get they get a copy of OC from the developer. So they get the copy of OC from the developer and also ensure that the developer has done the conveyance of the society in the name of the society. Yeah. So yeah, having said this, I would like to conclude.
चैट बॉक्स में कुछ सवाल है, आप ले लीजिए चैट बॉक्स में जो सवाल।
जी, सबसे पहले सेक्शन 79A ऑफ MCS एक्ट मैंडेटरी नहीं है। मिस्टर श्याम सुंदर गुप्ता इन्होंने कोट किया हुआ है जी। तो जैसे कि मैंने पहले कहा था कि इट इज मोर ऑफ गाइडलाइन फॉर अ कोऑपरेटिव हाउसिंग सोसाइटी टू बी फॉलोड. It is not mandatory, but yes, it gives you a guidance and assistance when you are proceeding with redevelopment of your cooperative housing society. The other question which has been asked is the authorized officer or administrator appointed by deputy registrar have no power to call for SPM for redevelopment. Yes, that is correct, because I have already stated that once steel tenders are opened and once a comparative chart is prepared, the society has to approach the registrar to appoint an authorized officer जिनके presence में society developer appoint करेगी. This is for a transparency purpose. The authorized officer has no power to call for special general body meeting. This is a complete power and discretion of the managing committee. बट उनके प्रेजेंस में अगर डेवलपर अपॉइंट होता है तो वो काफी ट्रांसपेरेंट होगा. दैट इज मैंने कहा था कि इट शुड बी वीडियो रिकॉर्डेड ऑल्सो. तो यस, स्पेशल जनरल बॉडी मीटिंग कॉल करने का उनका कोई अथॉरिटी नहीं है, वो सिर्फ मैनेजिंग कमेटी करेगा.
बिल्कुल. पूर्वी तो सवाल के जवाब तो मिल गए हैं. जो हमारे ऑडियंस में लाइव जो कनेक्ट हैं वो लोग अच्छा मैसेज करें. आप सभी का शुक्रिया. पार्टिसिपेंट में से हम एक पार्टिसिपेंट को बुलाते हैं. हमारा ये एक सिलसिला है, परंपरा हमारी, और उनसे पूछते हैं कि आज के हमारे जो कीनोट स्पीकर थे उनका लेक्चर कैसे लगा. तो आज के पार्टिसिपेंट में मैं इनवाइट करूंगा मिस्टर कोरे हैं, मिस्टर सुनील कोरे. सुनील जी.
हाँ, नमस्कार साहब.
नमस्कार साहब. आज का लेक्चर एडवोकेट पूर्वी सोलंकी फर्स्ट इनका आज लेक्चर था एज ए कीनोट स्पीकर. एडवोकेट विथ महासेवा एंड पूजा सिंधे जो कोरोना के बारे में उन्होंने लेक्चर दिया. दोनों कैसा लगा सर?
दोनों का बहुत इंफॉर्मेटिव था और पूर्वी अच्छा कर रही है. यानी ये उम्र में यानी
शुभकामना चाहिए होते हैं. अभी क्या आज की बिगिनिंग है, उनकी शुरुआत है. यानी तो आप सब सीनियर्स लोग हैं वैक्सीनेशन करवाएं और सावधानी बरतें. सबसे पहला जो स्टेप है ये पहले भी था और आज भी है, तो ये करेंगे तो आप, और इसमें मदद कर रही है UWM की टीम, यूनाइटेड वे ऑफ मुंबई की, कि आप इनके मुहिम से जुड़े. और आपको घर बैठे, आपको करना कुछ नहीं, घर बैठे जुड़ना है और जो ये बताते हैं वो करना है. तो आप अपनी RWA मतलब रेसिडेंशियल वेलफेयर एसोसिएशन में, हाउसिंग सोसाइटी में कोरोना से मुक्त रहेंगे और एकदम अच्छा जीवन जिएंगे. इसी बात के साथ में मैं पूजा सिंधे और पूर्वी सोलंकी का खूब खूब शुक्रिया करना चाहूंगा। धन्यवाद। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
थैंक यू सर।
थैंक यू सर।
आपके दोस्त और होस्ट सुनील शर्मा को दीजिए इजाजत। नमस्कार, धन्यवाद, आपका दिन शुभ हो। फिर नेक्स्ट वीक मिलेंगे प्रभु से खास बात और अन्य वेबिनार से। थैंक यू वेरी मच। जय हिंद, जय महाराष्ट्र, भारत माता की जय।